Welcome to Betmix Toteboarding. We're going to try to give you all some insight on what toteboarding is, how to use it, and where you can find it within Betmix. Let me turn off that. Okay, so Betmix Toteboarding is found through the Tools menu. You can go to Tools and then Toteboarding, or if you're on a race, if you're in if you're in Bird Dog, and you open up a race, we'll say Saratoga here. We'll pick a race. 6th race. When Betmix opens up, there's a button in here in the upper left hand corner that says Toteboarding, and that will open up the Toteboarding screen for you. So let's walk through a little bit about what Toteboarding is. If you go into Toteboarding, the first thing you're going to see is what we call the Race Hub. And the Race Hub shows you all of the upcoming races by most recent first. So this next race was Indiana Grand, is 0 minutes to post, and there's Belterra going off at the same time. 12 minutes later, you got Woodbine, Delaware, Thistledown, so on and so forth. And you can see the others down here chronologically. So Saratoga just went off, so it's showing you that the 7th race will be coming up in 27 minutes. And what you can see on this initial screen here is the race information, what track it's at, how many starters it has, what kind of race it is, and you also see the live odds. So this information that you're seeing right here is real time. It's showing you each horse in the race, what the morning line odds are, money that's coming in. You see these just +5, +200, whatever that was. It's added to the pool. You can see that again over here. Money coming into the pool on those races. You can also click on the video and you can hit that play button and it'll stream that video for you. But because of this YouTube live thing and some of the legal restrictions on showing videos across YouTube, we're not going to be able to show you that, but that's how you do it. You'd click that and you can have multiple video streams going at the same time. Of course, you also, let me preface that by saying you need to be a ExpressBet customer in order to get the live video to show up. So if you come into Betmix and you're not an ExpressBet customer, unfortunately you won't be able to see the video. And you also won't be able to bet, but you can still look at the odds and those kinds of things. So this is what you see on the Race Hub, and this is how you would start off by picking a race. So let's say we'll just take a look, just as a walkthrough. We'll say we'll take a look at this Woodbine race that's coming up. So to get to that, I just click anywhere on this Woodbine, and it's going to pop up with a screen that's going to show you a lot more detail about what's going on in this Woodbine race. And we'll kind of go through these sections one by one to give you an overview of what's happening here. So of course this one is just the list of horses that are in this race, and it has them listed from favorite, which is the top here. You can see if there's rank 1, this is odds rank, all the way to number 8, which is the long shot. And so this is all going to change. You can see as we get updated tote information, all of this information changes here. So we start off with the horse, the program number, of course, the morning line odds, and these are the live odds of the horse right here in this column here. This next column is the daily double percentage, and then you have exacta percentage, and then the win percentage. What those are telling you is what percentage of the pool that horse represents. So on the win right now, this is kind of a lukewarm favorite. It's 3-1, so it's a 20.74% of the win money is now on the 3. And in the exacta pool, it's got 21.5% roughly, and the daily double pool 19. So this is where you can kind of get an idea of where the money's going and where there may be a discrepancy and where you may be able to find value. And that's pretty important. Now, of course, this is all changing rapidly. So what represents value right now, 8 minutes to post, may not represent value at post time, but at least you have some indication of the direction. So one thing to mention up front about toteboarding is we built it for several reasons. One of them being, hey, can you handicap efficiently or with any success without really looking at any handicapping data? If you can just base all of your decision making on the money, where it's going, where there's value, those kinds of things. In addition, of course, we wanted to make it easier to make exacta bets, to correctly bet exactas eventually trifectas, but right now exactas and win bets, and how you can structure a bet to make money, rather than just doing simple boxes and things like that. So anyway, back to these different views of the tote boarding information. We can see right now that the 3 is the favorite in this race with 20% of the money. This next box over here is looking at this similar race type just like this, based on similar track, surface, starters, race type, etc. So when we look back at the past 261 similar 5 furlong turf claiming races at Woodbine that contained 8 horses, we see that the favorite wins 34% of the time, and that's this horse right here. It comes in second, at least first or second, 52% of the time, and it hits the board first, second, or third 66.8% of the time. And you get those same stats for every position for every horse in this race. The longest shot in this race would only win 1.5% of the time. At the top here, you can see the win categories, and so we break it into buckets. The winner pays between 0 and 6, or between 6 and 10, 10 to 20, 20 plus, etc. So 33% of the time the winner pays between $6 and $10, and then 13% of the time, 13.8, $20 or more, which is kind of high for this for a race like this. And then also the Exacta will pay 52% of the time it pays between 0 and 25, and then 7% of the time $100 or more. This win ROI column within here, this is kind of interesting, and it tells you that if you would have bet $2 to win on the favorite in every single one of these races, 261 races, you would have lost $50.80. Down here you got a positive one on betting the 7th choice. So of course you had a few long shots come in at big prices that made that profitable, and that's something that you may want to consider, that if the long shot's coming in, maybe it's the 7th ranked horse. This next feature over here is the odds distribution stats, and this changes as the odds change. This box here does not change. This is kind of set in stone based on what has happened in this race type in the past. This box changes with the odds, and it looks at odds. It looks at races that have 8 horses in it. It does not consider the type of race, the track, the distance, the surface, anything like that. It looks at races that had 8 horses where the favorite was 3 to 1. You had you have basically it's going to say horses that are in this 3 to 1 range and the 6 to 1 range, and so this is a unique kind of odd setup here. It hasn't happened super often, only 95 times, where you're looking at the favorite being 3 to 1 and the long shot at 11 to 1. So this kind of tells you that this is not a very common setup, with only 95 races found like this. And when it does find races like that, the favorite only wins 21% of the time, based on that kind of an odds pattern. And you compare that to what happens typically in this type of race at Woodbine, and you see that the favorite wins at 34% of the time. So this is telling you that the public is having kind of a difficult time figuring out this particular race, and has made the favorite 3 to 1, where typically it would be a lot lower price than that. You can see right now that hey, we're saying typically the favorite wins 34% of the time, but right here the win percentage is only 20%. So that's the difference there, and something to keep in mind. So these two screens right here are pretty valuable in terms of getting you to kind of understand what typically happens in past races and how you may want to look at today's race. Over here we have the video again. You can click that play button and you would see the video. I'll click on it and then I'll close it because we're not allowed to show it, but that's where the video would be. Now down here we get into the nuts and bolts of tote boarding. We're having a lot of information here. We'll kind of jump into it right away. Let's look at this left-hand screen over here is what we call the Exacta totem, and it's showing you. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Exacta matrix that you would see at the racetrack, or you would see online at ExpressBet, where it shows you what the will pays are, the one with the 2, the one with the 3, and so on and so forth. We've just put it in a column here. It makes it a lot easier to read, and you can sort this column. So If we sorted it from high to low, the highest paying Exacta right now in the dollars is 126.80, and that's the 5 over the 2. Now, that's kind of strange. You would expect it to be the 6 over the, or the 4 over the 6, the two longest shots on the board. But actually, the 5-2 is paying more than anything else at this point in time. The lowest paying is the 7 over the 3. Again, that's an anomaly, and that's something to pay attention to here. It should be the 8 over the 7. The first choice, the first betting choice over the second betting choice is actually paying 21.60, but the 7 over the 3 is paying 16.95. So what you're going to kind of focus on here is the probabilities, the values, and will pays, things like that. So let's talk about the probabilities. Right now, the most probable outcome, it's only at 4.17%, and that's very low. Normally, you'd see things in the 7, 8, 9, 10% range, but this is the most probable outcome, which is the favorite over the second choice. And these probabilities are based on the win odds of the horses in the race, and it's extremely accurate. It's if this is supposed to happen 4% of the time, it really does happen about 4% of the time. And the least probable, if I sort it that way, would be the 4 over the 6. This column here, the value column, this tells you if that combination is paying what it should. If it's a I'm going to reload this because I'm getting audio in the background here. So the value column in the matrix is extremely important. You can tell when something's getting bet or not bet. So right now, if I look at the value, let's explain how that works a little bit. So something that has about a 1% chance of happening, we'll look at this 6-3 combination right here. That's 1.02%. So something has a 1% chance of happening. It's about 100 to 1. It should pay $100. But as you can see right here, this one's paying $69.25, which is 70% of what it should pay. And conversely, this one right here that has a 1% chance of happening is paying $140. So it's paying about $40 more than it should. So you get the value there of 1.39 because this is not exactly 1, it's 0.99. So this is a great value bet here on the 5-2, or it was, and it's going down a little bit. And you can kind of sort these by value, and you can see right now that the best value Exacta that you could possibly play is the 5-2 and 2-5. Both of those are providing value, and the least is the 3-2. So the 3 over the 2 here is only paying 44% of what it should. It's not a good bet to make. But sometimes the most probable things get hit hard in the Exacta pool, and they're bad values. But if they win, they still. It was a bad value bet, but it still wins, and there's nothing you can do about that. You can look over here. Let me get this to highlight again. So when you go back and you look at the win percentage and the Exacta percentage, you can see right now that this 8, who's currently the favorite, is here's a better example of it. We highlight the win number here if there's a discrepancy of 2.5% or more. So right now this 3 horse is getting bet a lot harder in the Exacta pool than it is in the win pool. So if you really like the 3, what that tells you is you should play the win pool. You should play the win side. You're going to get better value on the win than you would on the Exacta on the 3. So the 3s are getting the combinations with the 3 are overbet on the Exacta side and underbet on the win side. The rest of them are kind of lined up as they should be. There's not any great discrepancies there. So you can see that. You can also sort the Exacta column over here by combination, and so if you wanted to go down here and look at the 3s, you can see that the 3s, if you look at the values on the 3 with 1, 7, 8, etc., those are all pretty low, the lowest being the 3-2. If you look at the favorite, we'll go down here and look at the favorite. So there's some value there. There's the 8-1's a pretty good value for the first choice over the third choice. That's providing value. So this stuff changes. The closer you get to post time, the more meaningful it is. So I guess the key to successfully tote boarding and placing these bets is to get your bets in at the last possible second, and that's hard to do sometimes. You can hit the send button. I'll show you how that works, but it's kind of difficult. You put them in too early, and everything you've kind of based on your decisions on may have changed. So continuing on with this totem, there's a filter button up here, and this is kind of neat. You can say, all right, only show me the 8 and the 7 on the top. So I'd check the 7 and the 8, and I want to see everything else in second. I hit apply filter. So now the only combinations I'm seeing are those that have the 8 and the 7 on the top with everything else. And if there's one thing you should take away from this call, perhaps if you're playing exactas, is statistically 85% of the time the first or second choice is going to be in the exacta. It could be the favorite running second, or the second choice running second, or the vice versa, one of them running first. So about 85% of the time, one of the top 2 betting choices will be in the exacta. So you can filter that way. You could go through and look at those with the favorite and second choice on top, and I could also come over here and say, show me the favorite and the second choice on the bottom, and I could apply that. And so now I'm looking at everything with the 7, 8, and second, and I can come back here and I'll include all combinations again. As you want to place, as you place bets, the way to do it is you just click on them. I'm just randomly clicking some things right now, and as you can see, as I click them, they show up down here in my bets. These are the combinations I'm betting, and this Exacta summary panel over here that tells me how many combinations that I'm betting, what percentage of the total. So there's 56. There's eight horses in this race, so that's 56 combinations of Exactas. I've currently clicked on 6 of them. I can click this X and clear them all out, start over again. I can click and drag down, so I could cover 19 of them real quick, and that's a third, 33% of the combinations. And then select them over here. I can uncheck them here as well and get rid of them, or I can get rid of them all. So if I was going to place a bet, let's just say I was going to handicap this race, and like a lot of Exacta players who go to the track, you might say, I'm going to box 4 horses. I'm going to do the 1, 8, 7, 3, and maybe you make some money, maybe you hit it and lose money. We'll see what that would look like. So if I go to the filter here, and I know I want to bet just the 1, 8, 7, 3 combinations, I could click on those and just select those in first and second. So that's only combinations that contain those 4 horses. So that would be 12 combinations right here. And you can see that in this particular case, the payouts would have been, well, the lowest paying combination in that is $14.35, and the highest is $29. So I would have bet, if I was going to bet $1 on each of those, it cost me $12. You can see that down here. It tells me that I have a 44% chance of hitting the Exacta. I have those combinations covered. Let's say I want to go back in and make sure that I have a bigger coverage. So now the ones that I have highlighted, those represent the box of those 4 horses. But let's say I want to sort by probability, and I see that I'm missing a couple here, that are kind of likely. So I could add in the 1 and the 4 and the 8 and the 4. Now that pushes my probability to 49.2. Let's say I want to make 50% coverage. So you get into a situation here where you have bet $15, or you're potentially going to bet $15. You can see that down here. I have a probability of 51%. Now this is where the wager wizard comes in. So that's that's not a good. If I hit that and the 1-8 comes in, I'm going to lose 65 cents. So if I want to break, I'm going to make sure that I break even at least on that. I hit the Run Wager Wizard button. You can see that it's added a couple of combinations over here. That I need to put $2 on these 2 and $1 on the rest. Or I could say, hey, I want to hit this Exacta, but I want to make sure that I make at least $20 if I hit it. So my cost of the wager is $17, but now I want to say I want to at least make $20 no matter what happens. So I would hit this again, and you can see it's changed these values over here. My total bet down here is $54. So I'm laying out 54, but now I'm kind of guaranteed if I hit it to make $20. And you can change that amount to anything you want. If I wanted to make $100 on this with all those combinations, I would end up, my bet total would be $203. I'd have 22 on the 1-8 and so on and so forth. And you can see that this is a very smart way of playing these Exactas to guarantee a certain profit, and it's also much more efficient than me walking up to the window and saying, give me a $22 1/8, a $20 8/1, a $15 7/8. That's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to do that quickly. Somebody's going to make a mistake, either you in telling it or the teller in punching it in. It'll be pretty tough. And it's also pretty tough to type these in online. So if this race was live, I could actually play those combinations. I'll go to a different race. We'll pick Saratoga here. It's coming up, and we're going to get into a live betting situation. If it's live, I'm going to have a place bet down here where I can actually place the bet. That Woodbine race had just gone off, so that was I couldn't place the bet. So if we go back over here to Saratoga, we have a very strange current odds layout, very unusual in terms of the number of horses here. So it's only found 10 similar. This will change, but right now the ones, you can see you get the 1 and the 1A. They're both overrepresented significantly in the win pool and underrepresented in the Exacta pool. So there's probably some value in the Exactas on the ones. Yeah, the 1/6 is high, the 1/10 is high, the 1/11. So all of these combinations are paying a lot more than they should with the 1, which is the favorite. But anyway, if I were to go back here just to illustrate the point of how you place bets, I would click on all these. Let's say I wanted to place these 10 bets right here. My probability would be 43.6%. I would bet 10. I would have a profit range of 1070 to 3150. I don't need to run the wager wizard because I know I'm in the money there. I'll add another one here to make it unprofitable. Hit run wager wizard, so it's going to add $1 to that 1-2 combination. I'll hit place bet, and it's going through as it adds. It's sending these. You can see as they are accepted by ExpressBet, and I'm getting a check, and then I get the bet amount over here that I bet on these horses. I don't really want to do that because we haven't really analyzed this, so I can click on my bets over here, and I can start hitting cancel, and it'll get rid of those wagers for me. It'll uncheck them. It'll take them off the screen. Make sure it knows I'm serious about it. Yeah. And so we'll get rid of all those wagers. I was faster than the system. So we'll hit refresh here just to make sure it's all cleared out, and those wagers should be gone. Yeah. So if I went back to my bets here, it shows me the ones that I have canceled. It draws a line through them. So that's how you would send the bet. There's also a win Dutch feature here. So if you're not playing Exactas, if you're playing to win, let's say hey, I like the 2, the 8, the 4, the 3. You get down here, this win bet summary. It's similar to the Exacta, so it's telling me if I bet on those 4 horses to win, I have a payout range of $5.50 to $9. This is based on a dollar wager, and I have a probability of 44% of hitting it. Let's add another horse there. We'll add a couple more. So I'm up to a 58% chance of hitting it if I bet $1 on each of these 6 horses. 58% chance of winning, but I could lose money. So on the win Dutching, I could also say, hey, I want to bet these to win, but I want to make a guaranteed profit of $5. So it changes all that for you over here. Now you got to put 5 on the 2 and 4 on the 8 and 4 on the 4 and so on and so forth, and your bet total now is $21, but your payout range is 27 to 34. So you can do the win side of this as well as the Exacta side. You can't do the place in the show because that's kind of unknown what those are going to pay, but this will allow you to bet multiple horses and have a guaranteed profit. Now if I were to add in the 1, let's say I added $1 on the 1 and I wanted to make a $5 guaranteed, it might come back, yeah, it's going to tell me it can't cover that. Because my probability, because the 1 is such a big favorite, taking 33% of the money right now, that it can't find a solution where I could bet every one of these horses and make a $5 profit. I've got a 90% chance of winning this race, but I'm going to lose I'm going to bet $22, but I might have a payout of $250 if the one wins. So I could say, all right, I want to do that, but maybe I'm okay with losing $10. Then that works. If I want to say I would accept losing $5, that would work. So if I could, you can run through some different scenarios here where you could accept a loss, a minimal loss, but I don't know. I guess if you have a huge amount of coverage that you could be okay with accepting a loss, but we'll clear all that out. Again, the main purpose of tote boarding is, of course, on the Exacta side, where you can play massive amounts of Exactas, put them in quickly, and have a good chance of hitting them. So we'll go through some of the other features here of tote boarding real quickly. If you are an Express Bet customer, you can come in and play with this. Do everything that I'm doing right now. Nothing has changed. You get to see all of this. But if you are also a Betmix customer, you can see some handicapping information displayed within tote boarding. If you're not a Betmix customer, this piece of it wouldn't be available to you. We have some other cool stuff in here that we'll touch on in greater detail. I'll go to a different screen, but you have the race stats, and this is really interesting information. So we have Exacta quartiles. So the top 25%, if I sort this by probability, and this is the most probable at 7%, if I clicked on this right now, it's going to highlight the 4 combinations that get you to 25% coverage. If I click the bottom quartile and click that and scroll down here, it would show you, I think I've locked it up here. Where is it? Maybe it to refresh it. But the quartiles are, you got the top 25, you got 25 to 50, 50 to 75, and then 75 to 100. And if you click one of those quartiles here, so what this is telling you is when you look at the historical races like this, 403 races like this, and it's looking at Saratoga, you can see by the bar charts that the majority of Exactas, 112 of them, have come in this 50 to 75% quartile. When I click on that, it's highlighted those combinations. These represent the third quartile. If I click on that one and this one, so the bottom two, I have a probability of 50.9%. So that's really the bottom combinations. That's I guess the 50% of the least likely combinations. But you can see that it's 79 combinations represent a 50% chance of winning. If I cleared that out and I went from the top to get to 50, and I'm just clicking and dragging and keeping an eye on this probability over here. So there we are with 12 combinations representing 50% chance. So, and that's the interesting thing about statistics, really, or betting on the Exactas. Whether you bet the top 50% or the bottom 50%, you have a 50% chance of hitting it. You're going to have a lot fewer combinations on the top than you do on the bottom, but of course your payouts on the bottom would be a lot higher. So this one right here, betting the top 50%, my payout range is $10.30 to $32.25. If I bet these bottom ones that represented 50%, my payout range is, let me do it this way, it's much easier. My payout ranges on the bottom ones are from $31 to $1,000. So it's a lot more combinations. So I have 80. So if I hit Run Wager Wizard there, I'd have to bet $121, but I'd have a guaranteed payout of $124 to $1,000. So either way I did that, I would have a 50% chance of hitting that Exacta. I'm not willing to invest $121 in this right now. If I felt strongly that the favorites were not going to win, then you could play those kind of long shot combinations, giving yourself a 50 or even a 60% chance of hitting it. You can change, you can see how far you can go with probability. So if I wanted to select all these, and I'm going down to, let's say I wanted to see if I could get right here, I have 70% chance of hitting it. If I hit the run wager, I can do that. I can make an Exacta bet that covers 70% chances, gives me a 70% chance of hitting it. It cost me $53. My range is 53 to 94.50. I could hit place bet on that, and away we go. I got a big chance of hitting it. I put $53 out there. If the most likely combination comes in, I'm going to make a dime. Or, if one of the longer shot combinations here comes in, I could make, pays $95. I'd be up $40 on it. So this is all about the coverage. On the auto tote over here, we'll take a look at this real quick before we move into the stats. But so right now I have this turned off. It's turned off by default. If I turn it on and I say, I can do things, only highlight combinations that pay above, let's say $100 to $150. It's highlighting only those combinations that meet this selection criteria over here. If I had, probabilities, and this, let's say I only want to see things that have a greater than 3% chance of happening, it highlights just those, and they're also here in my bet. So if I hit place bet, it's going to do just that. It would place bets on those. But let's say I wanted to say 3% chance or greater of happening, but also paying over $25. There's only one combination that meets those selected criteria. And there's a lot of ways you could set that up and play with it. And that gets into your strategy. You could say, I only want to look at combinations that have a value of at least 90%. So I want to make sure that I'm getting a decent value on all the things that all the combination I'm playing, and then again I'd go back and say probability of at least 1%, providing value of 90 or more, and you can see these are selected here. So this race just went off at Saratoga. Not going to be able to bet this one, but we'll perhaps catch another one here in a second. Going back to the tote menu real quick, we'll go back to the race hub. I'm going to show you something about the Exacta statistics that you can look at when you're starting to develop your Exacta strategies. Up here is the menu for tote boarding. If I click on that, I've got 5 options here. The race hub, which is this, race stats, Betnet, Betmix, and then logging out. Betmix, this just takes you back to the Betmix screen, which would bring you back to the home screen of Betmix. This tab right here, or this option right here called race stats, we'll pull that up real quick. This is going to give you an idea of what's happening. So let's take a look at yesterday. We'll just select all of yesterday. So I put in a date range of the 14th, and we're not going to concern ourselves with tracks or class, distance, surface, anything like that. And I hit start search. This is going to bring back every Exacta combination from yesterday, and this is really cool stuff to look at. So when we look at yesterday, it tells you that 49. This is big chalk day yesterday. 49% of the winners came in first, and 21% horses that won races, second choices won 21%, and so on and so forth. The Exacta quartile analysis. So it was a lot of the top or the lowest paying Exactas combinations hit yesterday. Very few of the long shot ones did. Normally this would, as it averages all out, would be about, all these bars would be about equal. And so you come over here and you can see the date, the track, the race, the distance, etc. How many combinations there were. That tells you how big the field was, and who the winners were, and the off odds rank of each horse. So if I sort this, so yesterday, if you look at all these combinations where the favorite over the second choice won. So you got the 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. That's what that's telling you. There's the first choice over the second choice, and this tells you the probabilities of each of those. So in this case today, in this race at Saratoga, the 5-2, which is the first choice over the second choice, it had a probability of 8.95. Some of these yesterday had very high probabilities, smaller fields, but 22%, 13%, so on and so forth. So all of those were 1-2 combinations. And then as you scroll down, you get to the 1-3s. You scroll down more, you get to the second choice. So the second choice over the first choice, and the second choice over all the others, and then finally to the third choice over the first choice, and third choice over the second choice. And then you can see here's so right now is the first 3 that we're seeing that did not have one of the first or second choices in it. Now we're back to the 4 over the 1, 4 over the 2. So you had some 4 3s, 4 5s, and then 5 1s. But there was a lot. I mean, you can just eyeballing this. How many times do you not see the 1 or the 2 here? Not very often. So you got a 6-4 down here. The highest paying Exacta yesterday was, for $1, $209. Was the 6th choice over the 4th choice. It had a 0.15% chance of coming in. It was the 34th ranked by probability out of 42 combinations. It was the 34th least likely to come in. It had a terrible value. It paid 30% of what it should have. And you would have had to have gone 98% deep to hit it. And what I mean by that, if you come back over here and you start selecting from the most probable to the least probable, keeping an eye on your total probability coverage, you keep going down. If you wanted to hit that thing going from top to bottom, you would have had to go down to 98%, which is virtually covering every single combination in the race. And for this race, it would have put us right about there, covering 70 of the 90 combinations to have hit that. So there's a lot of interesting stuff you can to do over here. So you can clear this out, and you can say, I want to look at 8-horse fields only. And so yesterday, looking at, I think we saw on yesterday's date range. You can change the track, all that kind of stuff. But that gives you some idea if you're thinking about going high or low or on something. And when I say high or low, playing the favorite or the most likely combinations or playing the least likely combinations. Either way, how can you optimize your bet? How can you get the greatest amount of coverage, biggest potential payouts, all those kinds of things. This is it's a game in and of itself, really. Toteboarding is. There's so many strategies here. Again, we're just touching the surface on kind of how to use it right now. But in terms of how to play it, that's something you'll gain. You'll get a better feel for that with experience. You're going to have an idea of, you'll. All right, this one just race 6 at Saratoga just became official. So once it becomes official, you can click over here. You can see the results. It was a 4-5 combination. So if we look over here in the probability, the first choice was in it. The first choice came second, but you would have gone down here in the 56% range to have hit it. You could have played that for $17. You could have covered up to 56%, and you would have got real lucky there because it was the highest paying combination. So if you went to right at 50%, which would have put you right here to the 5-7, you wouldn't have hit it. You would have missed that 4-5. So using the bottom 50% would have been the way to play it there. But again, keeping in mind using the favorite and how you can go over here, filtering out. Let's say you just put the 4 and the 5 and the 2, which were the 2 favorites on top. You could have done something like that with a big favorite first, and then reverse that with those 2 in second, and come up with the combination that way. Let's see what it was on the value on the 4-5. So the 4-5 was a great value check. It was a great value. Paid 11% more than it should. So the 4-5 was a great Exacta bet to have made. If you look at the total values of all of them, it was only one of only 5. Well, 7 combinations were paying above what they should have. If you include this one, which was playing exactly what it should have. So you could have taken the 5 or the 8 most value providing combinations and had a pretty good wager there. It would have only cost you $8 and you would have gotten a nice $96 for 2 payout there. So you can also look over here at the 4-5 combinations here, where the 4 was pretty even in all pools. The 5, same thing, no big discrepancies in these. The 4 was one of the, was a decent 18% on the place and 7.9% on the win. So anyhow, I guess the point here is there's a ton of information in here. To play with this, it's pretty simple to kind of go back. I can go back here. This is Saratoga race 6. Let's say you wanted to look at race 5. You can just change that in the URL up here. You can change it to any past date, whether it's today or last week, last month, whatever, and you can look at the how it turned out and what your combinations were. You can go back to race 1 today and bring up those results and kind of try to reverse engineer how you could have hit that bet if if it was possible, if you would have hit it, how would you have played it, those kinds of things, and how would you have interpreted this information and this information over here. But again, this is this tote boarding is based on the money, following the money, win pools, Exacta pools, daily double, where the discrepancy is, where to put the money, what the values are, what the probabilities are, how many can you cover, what's the most you can cover, and without having to adjust your wagers. Real simply, if this is paying $9, that you can play $9 worth of Exactas without losing any money, and you can just start from the top and go down and click 9 combinations, and that gives you a 56% chance of hitting it. But you're not going to get necessarily, let's see, that was a 5-8. You wouldn't have hit that with 56% chance of with coverage. So can you go to 60, 70? Where do you typically have to be to hit it? And that's where the stats come into play, and your bankroll, of course. The more you can play, the more you can cover. If you go by value, a lot of ways to play it here. One more thing I'm going to touch on this screen right here is the there's a red line that we like to look at. You can see it down here. So this is the halfway point. This divides the race in half. So if I sort by probability, this is the halfway point. Everything above that line, everything below that line is 50-50. Same thing on the will pay. Where's that halfway point? And on the value, it's interesting how often you'll see combinations come in close to the red line. This one was a little bit far away, but the value is typically, we'll look at another race here, maybe the second. The winning Exacta combination is one that's typically not a super value and not a terrible value. It's kind of in the middle, and you'll see that over and over again on the red line. You can see right here the red line in the second race was right here, and the winning combination was right here. So it was very close to that red line. It was right in the middle. So the middle value kind of combinations are very typically ones that come in. Again, the difficulty of that, if we were looking, we'll find the next race. We'll look at Delaware Park. It's got 0 minutes to post. If I look at the value red line right now, it's right here. Let's just say I was going to play these combinations above and below that line. I'm at 24%. Now we'll wait till the next update, and you can see how that just scattered. It changed. Some of them are still pretty close, but other ones popped in there. So it's kind of a readjustment thing you kind of have to do. So this one dropped. And this is also a very interesting way to keep an eye on what's getting bet late. So we'll clear them all out. We'll start again. I'll select 5 or 6 above and below that red line. And at the next update, you'll be able to see which ones hopped up in value and which ones dropped. So this one dropped significantly, this 3-6. And this one went up. So that just tells you that more money came in on these than other combinations. But if you get real close to this and hit that with a decent amount of probability coverage, that's a strategy of hitting these things. And it's kind of hard to know when to pull the trigger but it's interesting to see where the value is. Another thing before I let you all go, I want to hit one other thing in Toteboarding. We'll go back to the main screen. There's an option here. It's called Betnet. It's not something that we can cover thoroughly in this particular call, but it is an option in Toteboarding. I just wanted to hit it real quick. Filtering races. This lets you place a lot of bets on win, play, show. Like you can if you're an angler player, you can run your angles, and it'll bring them up here. You can bet on each one of them. You can we have some canned angles, horses that are dropping in class, horses that have early pace advantages, things like that. But the neat thing is you can filter kind of for things that are interesting to you. So let's say we're looking at Saratoga today, and we'll select that as the track, and we want to take a look at trainers and jockeys we like maybe. So on the trainer side, maybe we hit we'll go with Asmussen and see if Chad Brown has some in today. Chad Brown, and then we'll take of course the Ortizes. Maybe Rosario, and if I just hit that and hit search, it's going to bring back every race today that met any of those conditions, with Asmussen and Chad Brown with any of those jockeys. And so there would have been a couple of 5 of those that met that criteria. So you can filter for a lot of things here. You can you can do some of the handicapping stuff we have in Betmix, like, so I wanted to go to Saratoga today. I want to find horses that finished at least 1st through 4th last time out, ranked 1st through 4th in speed last race, has one of the top 3 jockeys, one of the top 3 trainers, and maybe morning line odds rank of between 1 and 5. And if I hit search, here are the horses that it comes back with. And you have these are the results that have already come in, but these are the horses that meet those conditions. And if I wanted to place a wager on everything that was here right now, I could say put 5 to win on all those, hit place bet, boom, it goes through express bet, and you got all those covered. You can do the same thing on the show as well, and maybe, or place and show, you can fill all those in and place those bets, and then of course just delete the ones you don't want to play. So that's Betnet. We'll go back to Toteboarding real quick and see if there's, it's kind of planning on doing a race here and showing you how to bet it, but you get a video problem here. So it's kind of hard to do this without the video, because you got to see when the horses are entering the gate and pull the trigger at that point. And of course you want to watch the race too. So not real exciting to do a live race without the video. And then tell you after the fact what happened. So that's Toteboarding. And if you guys got some questions or anything, let me know. You can type them in down there. I'll give you a couple minutes here, and we'll try to answer those. Here's a question somebody asked about on the Race Hub. No, at this point you can't filter just the tracks you want to see, but that's an enhancement that we're going to bring into play. So if you wanted to just show, your 3 or 4 favorite tracks, you can see that. Yeah, you can also see the. So if you wanted to go into the future here, you can load the day. It's only loading the 6 upcoming races by default, but if you wanted to go down and click on a race that was happening later, you just have to click load data, and it's going to go grab it for you. And of course, since this is so far out, there's no tote, there's no odds, there's no betting information coming through. You can see the live odds and things like that, but there's no win pool money coming in like on these races that are happening right now, where you have a live pool. Yeah, this is recorded. There's this will be shown on the YouTube channel after we're done. All right, guys. If you think of a question later on, you can just email me and we'll get you an answer. But that's pretty much it. That's tote boarding. There's a lot there. I think, my recommendation to you would be to go in and play with it without real money first. And, again, you can do that by opening up the race. You can kind of go to a past race and kind of figure out what it would have taken to have hit that race. So, you look at a race that's already run today. This is Arlington, but you just pick a race that has happened. Again, it can be today. I could go over here and change the date and the track, whatever. You can find any past race for the last couple of years, probably is going to be available, and see what it would have taken for you to find that Exacta and how this information lines up with what happened. And once you get comfortable with it and start looking for races that are worth playing and getting your bets optimized, not making those $4 or those 4-horse boxes anymore, where you're getting the same amount of money on each combination, even though some of them are better value, more likely, things like that. Sizing your wagers correctly, you're going to have a lot more success betting exactas, and we look forward to the day when we have the trifectas in here. That'll take this to a whole nother level. So appreciate your time, and let me know again if you all have any questions. Just email them to me and we'll get them answered.